Here now is CNBC contributor Don Luskin of Trend Macro and Noam Scheiber, who's senior editor at the New Republic. Hello, gentlemen. Look, go to Don on this. The evidence is coming in that the banks are turning profitable. Profit margins are rising. Interest rates are near zero. Money is loose. They're making money. They can earn and grow their way out of these problems. That's why, Don, I think more TARP. This is a Trojan horse for a request to Congress for more TARP money instead of less. Instead of a TARP exit strategy, we're going to increase the TARP story. And that means more government direction of the banking system and the economy. And that means more control over CEOs and boards and how banks allocate capital. To me, this is a political setup. It was not run by the independent regulators like the FDIC, Don.
Look, we know it's a political setup. We know it's a show trial. We know the grading will be on a curve. We know that the administration and the Treasury are going to want to come out of this with finding at least one or two banks that failed the test, because if somehow they all pass it, then it won't have any credibility. So a couple of victims are going to have to be identified. But, Larry, they can take control of these banks without having to go back to Congress for more money. All they have to do is force the banks to do what Citibank has already done and what they've hinted they will do, which is to convert the Treasury's existing preferred investment into common. That has the property of bowing down to the god of tangible common equity, as though certain kinds of capital are better than other kinds of capital. Now, personally, I'm with Woody Allen on this. Remember what he said about sex. I've never had the wrong kind. I feel the same way about capital. But what happens when you turn government preferred into government common is you wipe out the public shareholder, the non-government shareholder who held common, in favor of the government without adding a single penny of actual new capital. So in relation to a stress test where you're trying to bulletproof these banks to take a terrible economic scenario, it's nothing but the world's most expensive cosmetic surgery. And it ends up being a complete government takeover, just as you have said.
And I want to go to a second point. Don Luskin, it is astonishing to me that nobody in official Washington is paying any attention to Neil Barofsky, the Inspector General of TARP. I've talked about it a couple nights. You're writing about it. This is a criminal program. They've already busted some financial planner down in Tennessee. There's going to be 20 or 30 more of this before it's all said and done. It is astonishing to me that the Obamas would go down the road of seeking more TARP, and I can only believe it is because of their great desire to keep control of banks and keep directing the economy.
You know, I think, Larry, that they want just the right amount of control. They don't want to really nationalize these outfits like they had to do with AIG, because then they're actually responsible. What they want to do is control it without being responsible. So they love the helpless position that Citibank is in. So, Dick Durbin, you want to do mortgage cram down? No problem. Just call Vikram Pandit. Tell him to break ranks with the rest of the banking industry and say that mortgage cram down is fine with us. Citibank at this point doesn't care about mortgage cram down, judicial modification of mortgages, because the government will give them as much money as they need and will underwrite all their losses.
Well,
it's Wells Fargo who is the victim of that. So you want to keep these banks in just the perfect state of helplessness, where they will return your calls and do your bidding, but then when the wheels come off, you don't have to be accountable.
Listen, I will say that if you already own a substantial stake of an enterprise like Citigroup, 36% stake that the government owns, and the CEO ends up being a total disaster, well, you should do what any large shareholder would do in that situation, right?
But why is that shareholder decision unique? If you can control who the CEO is, why can't you control what their lending programs are, what their logo looks like, and everything else? It's all about control, Noam.